Welcome to Frankfurt, where we're looking at the brand new Kia EV3, which is another example of how Kia can make really great electric vehicles. We've had the EV9 again recently on the channel, and there are some comparisons between this and the EV9, which I'll explain in the video. What is this car? It's a smaller segment fully electric vehicle, the segment that is growing year on year, and there's certainly demand for this size of car and more of this size of car when it comes to electric vehicles. Let's have a little look at the front of the car today. So again, comparisons with the EV9 straight away. The headlights will be the same in every market around the world. The EV9 had different headlights in the States because of EU regulations. Under here we have a 25-litre frunk, which is good for cables. We have an active air flap under here, which will close above 80 kilometers an hour, helps improve aerodynamics, as does the underbody of the car, which is being designed using 3D, so a lot of it is sealed, and again that aids to give a 0.26 drag coefficient. Even the angle on the front of the bonnet here gives a kind of a sense of depth and robustness, which is something that features hugely in the design of this car, especially when we come around to the side of it. So what do I mean by that? Well, these kind of squared arches over the side of the car, these lines that some are very strong and then some are more curved, so you have opposites working in tandem with each other. The roof line slopes down as it goes towards the back of the car. They have what they've called a boat design over the rear spoiler, and also just if you look at the nose of the car versus the back of the car, it's much more sloped. Again, if you imagine air flowing over the car, it'll just drop straight down, so gives it quite a slippy design. And the wheelbase is the same size as a Kia Sportage, or Sportage, which is it's called in some markets, and that gives you an increased sense of space inside the car, whether it's head height, space for your legs, just more space is being crammed into this car. They've even moved the front windscreen as far forward as they could, just to again give you more space inside the vehicle. And that's true as well when it comes to the boot, which is 460 litres, and it's developing over 1200 litres then, with a totally flat floor if you drop those rear seats. We'll get to that in just a second. You might look at this and go, there's no wiper. There is. It's just tucked under here. Again, aero qualities, and it actually, I think, gives a better kind of design on the back of the car, because it's very, very sleek. So this is really, in the GT spec, this is really darkened privacy glass. You have more black going on the bumper. Lights, again, kind of like a baby EV9, the way that's designed. Accessing the boot then is just under here. This is the boot, as mentioned, 460 litres. There's a gap here in this car. It's a pre-production vehicle, but that will be sorted for European models. The European version of the car will not have adjustable bench. Sometimes in Kias you can, little handle on the side, and you can adjust the angle of the bench depending on how much space you want, but that won't happen in this car. We have a flexible parcel shelf. Texture of this and design is feeling very recycled. There's almost 30 kilos of sustainable materials used in this car. If you do want a bit more space then for your boot, you can drop this shelf or leave it sitting higher, depending whether you need space or not. So 460, great size boot really for what is typically, you might see 400 in a car of this size. So that's one of the benefits of this being a front-wheel drive vehicle, because you don't have the powertrain on the back, so you should get more space into the boot. Let's talk about charging and battery size. So there's two options, but we'll only get the larger battery in Ireland. They are 58.3 and 81.4 kilowatt hour. Different charging speeds on those two cars. The smaller battery will do 102 kilowatt, And again, the Irish version, if you want to call it that, will do 128 kilowatt charging speed. Also, future proofing. So the car has vehicle to load, it has vehicle to home and vehicle to grid. So essentially, the EV3 is like a huge power bank on wheels. Vehicle to grid is where you can sell energy from your car back to your electric provider. Not available in Ireland yet, but I'm sure in the next perhaps 2 years, it's something that's rolling out in the Netherlands, parts of Germany at the moment. And idea is, if you're sitting with your car fully charged outside, but you don't need all that charge on any given day, you can make some money from it. That's how it works. Vehicle to load, obviously you can charge devices, usually up to a speed of about 3 kilowatts. So an electric bike, if you were camping, equipment like that, you could plug in an air fryer if you were having a picnic, for example. Other dimensions on the car, just in terms of you're thinking, will it fit into a parking space? 4.3 meters long, 1.85 meters wide, and the wheelbase is 2.68. So gives you an idea of how much space is in the car. Getting in and out, if you're someone who has smaller people in your life, they will probably need assistance for a while to reach this part of the door in terms of getting in or out. Kia keen to stress how much they have created a lounge environment inside the new EV3, and that's certainly true about the front. In the back, main difference I suppose worth talking about is how much extra height they've managed to squeeze into this car. So the sloping roof does, you know, obviously impede a little bit, but they've cut out space in the headlining again for rear passengers, so even taller passengers should get on okay. Flat floor, because it's a fully ground up EV design, so you've got plenty of space for your feet. We've seen these USB-C chargers in the car before. GT line versions will have a heated seat button back here, shoulders of the door, allowing quite a bit of glass and viewpoint for people who like seeing out. And I'll get to it in the front of the car, but this is quite an interesting kind of center area, which in the back has a little bit of space for storing snacks and items and drinks down here. You want to tuck a tablet or a device away, you can do that here. And we get an armrest in the back, which again, like a lot of cars these days, has a kind of unusual angle to it, but here we go. So nothing too out of the ordinary that we've seen before from Kia in the back, but that does change quite a bit in the front. Okay, so starting with something that's very new and very different and actually very useful is this fold away table of sorts. So if you're charging or you're waiting for somebody, having a karate lesson or whatever inside, you can place a laptop here and work quite comfortably. A lot of times you're trying to do it and the steering wheel's in the way. The one thing I will say about this is it feels quite light and quite flimsy. Now maybe that's the whole idea, because it's easy to adjust. There's a little catch under here. When you're not using it, then you can tuck it away. We have this armrest here, not leather because animal free interiors these days, but it does have a very nice finish to it. It feels like it is leather. Again, more options in a car that doesn't have a transmission tunnel, so we get a lot of space down here. There's further storage down below. We've got a wireless charging plate, and it just creates, as they have called it many times, a nice spacious lounge environment that will make you feel comfortable. ChatGPT will be on the car as standard. By the end of this year, you'll be able to download different themes and games for retrospective EV9 and EV6 models as well. They'll be over-the-air updates. So a lot of future-proofing gone into this car. The steering wheel is quite a bit different to what we've seen before, particularly this center part. It's almost square at the top, almost square at the bottom. So it's got a nice dimension to it. Feels a little bit smaller, eyeballing it compared to the EV9. But again, I've got to keep mentioning the EV9 because it has the exact same screen setup. So that's a vastly more expensive car, but they have used some of the materials and infotainment from the car. So this is all digital, including your climate control, but it's on this center part that never leaves. So your digital options will always be there for temperature. So you've got this 12-inch screen with all your standard information on it, your nav, all the usual things, phone projection, same size screen then for your instruments. And if, for example, you're a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you'll be able to have that on the screen in parts, like the wallpaper on your phone, your favorite football club. You know, you can do that. Driving then, so this is your stock where you'll select the gear on the EV9 and also on some of the Hyundai products that you may have been comparing with this car because they're the same company. So more wireless charging going on down here. A lot of recycled materials, but very good quality. You know, you've got this ambient light strip that's nice. It's very bright. It's an airy feeling car, particularly with these kind of two-tone seats. And I think, you know, you're going to feel, for a small car, it still feels quite spacious. There's a lot of width going on, and I think, like, you and your passenger beside you, you're not going to be knocking elbows off each other. But this is really impressive. I like this. Great idea. Just wish it didn't kind of roll around so much. There also is a button here for hill descent, so if you're going down hills and you like a little bit of additional braking, and you can also access your camera and your 3D camera in this case from that button if, again, you're trying to park. That will come on when you switch it into reverse, but for whatever reason you can access it here as well. So, like, again, a mini EV9 on the inside. So some other elements of the car that are quite unique to Kia at this stage. You'll have a digital key which you can operate with your phone. You can share that with up to 7 different people, and I'm kind of wondering where Kia going with that. Are they using it to future-proof the car? If it's a fleet solution thing, I mean, obviously you could have 7 members in your family, you're all going to share the car, but that seems high. But it's pretty handy as well. You'll be able to lock the car, see where it is, all that stuff from that sense. ADAS, which is all the assist features, again, quite interesting. Yes, it has blind spot and frontal collision avoidance and all that stuff. The car doesn't have any LiDAR sensors, but it still really is a clever car. If, for example, with the driver monitor, it senses that you are not conscious, it will bring the car to a stop, it will put the hazards on, and it will even open the doors so somebody can assist you if there was an issue. It has better cruise, radar cruise, the adaptive setting. It will do lane assist for you, where it'll actually change lane. You just hold onto the steering wheel. And if you have been driving modern cars over the last little while, you'll notice sometimes the car is asking or needs you to wiggle the steering wheel because it thinks you're not in control. You won't need to do that in the EV3. Just holding the steering wheel will be enough, which you should be doing. Anyway, question I asked Kia today was, why would you buy this over the Niro? A couple of answers to that. Well, this is fully electric. Obviously, the Niro has different options for powertrain. And also, Kia say this is a much more interesting car for a younger customer. So it's not that they don't want older customers to buy this, but they've certainly put a lot of interesting stuff in that perhaps younger customers will be more interested in, such as ChatGPT, the gaming that will come later on in the year. So on first impressions, obviously I haven't driven the car, I can't talk about the efficiency, I don't have a price yet. I can tell you, I get the sense from Kia, reading between the lines, it will be, again, near enough to Niro prices. They are competing with ID3, Cooper Born, Volvo EX30, those kind of cars, and you can see for yourself where those cars start from. It's generally late 30s, but if you want dual motor versions and stuff like that, in the Volvo, for example, you're well into the 50s. There won't be a dual motor version, strictly front wheel drive, helps with the frunk, and hopefully should keep the cost and the range in a better position. So look, we've experienced electrification from Kia for quite a while now. They generally do it very, very well. I think they've squeezed a lot of space into this car, and it's got enough kind of future proofing to keep people interested. So is this the size of car that will finally convince you to go electric? Have you had, I mean, we're looking at the e-Soul and cars like that, maybe you're on your 2nd or 3rd generation electric Kia. And would it tempt you out of a Niro if you have one of them? Let me know down in the comments below, and thank you very much for coming this far in the video today. We'll drive it later on in the year. You might consider liking and subscribing if you've enjoyed the video today as well. Thank you very much for watching.